Hi again everyone, and thanks for joining our Student Experience TMC live event for the Manchester College. I'll shortly pass you over to Annette, who is a Head of Department for Student Experience at the Manchester College. Annette will be highlighting the role of the Student Experience team and how they help to support adults that are returning to study. If you do have any questions at any point, you can ask them in the live Q&A box, which is on the right of the screen, and we'll answer as many as we can at the end. I'll now pass you over to Annette to get this session started. Over to you, Annette.
Thank you, and thank you so much for joining me this evening. As we said, my role is Head of Student Support, so my job is really to look after students that take the decision to study with us at the Manchester College. And really the purpose of this evening's session is just to first of all congratulate you on thinking of taking this step to returning to study. I know for adults that can be a big decision to make. Some of you may have been out of education for a long time. Some of you may have done some work, some study in the community and looking for more sort of accredited qualifications. But I think just really what we want to sort of take this opportunity this evening is just to highlight that when you do decide to study at the Manchester College, my team are here to support you throughout that journey. So by the end of the session, what I hope you feel is confident, that you're confident that you know you can do this, and you know that we are here to help. So that feeling of reassurance that you've had an introduction to some of the roles of the team, so that if you did need help with some study skills or perhaps some wellbeing, you know exactly where to go for that support. I also want you to leave the session feeling prepared, and how we're going to do that is to encourage you to start thinking about some of the questions that will be important to make sure you succeed in your studies. So for example, have you started to talk to friends and family about your goals and your aspirations? Have you considered things like childcare, work? And by planning all of these things just now will ensure that when you start with us, either in January or in September, you're prepared to hit the ground running with your studies. And really, ultimately, what we want you to feel is excited. Returning to education is a fantastic thing. We know it is. It can lead to better career progression. It actually has better health outcomes, more money. So there's lots and lots of reasons to feel excited about returning to study. So let's get started. So the first thing that I want to say is that you can do this. But what we want you to really think about is to start with your passion. What is it that you're really interested in? Because that's the difference between being able to sort of stay motivated and committed to your course rather than doing something because you think that you have to do it. Now, as adults, that's really important. You've probably already maybe thought about courses in the past and done them because maybe employers encouraged you to do it, or you had to do it because you were in school. That's not the choice now. The choice is now yours. So think about the things that you're interested in. And what's fantastic about the Manchester College is we have such a wide range of courses available. So whether your passion is construction, catering, hairdressing, animal care, whatever it is, we've got the course for you. So please do explore those options and drop into the curriculum sessions to find out more about those courses, because really picking something that you love will make all the difference, as I said, to your motivation as you progress through your courses. But we also understand that learning is a bit of a luxury these days, and really most people step into learning because they want to develop their career. And that's one of the things that I love about, why I choose to work at the Manchester College and why I love working here, is because it's not just about helping you gain a qualification, it's about helping you pursue that career and making sure that you get that goal. And we do that by, as well as giving you, the qualification, there's lots of events that wrap around that. So with our careers and welfare team, for example, you'll be given support with CV writing, the opportunity to participate in mock interviews, and even better, in the classroom, you will be taught by industry experts who themselves have already had careers in your chosen profession. So by even to get that sort of expert teaching from those professionals, together with that wraparound support, means that it's not just the qualification you're going to leave with, it's the first step into your career. Now, one of the other things that I love about working at the Manchester College is that the different levels of courses that we provide. And that means that I can confidently say that whatever your starting point is, we will meet you there. So whether that's an entry qualification, that's fine, we have those, or if it's a more advanced qualification, perhaps one of our level 3 access courses that want you to, help you on the pathway to university. Whatever your starting point is, we've got a course that meets your needs. So don't worry if it's been a long time since you've been out of education. And also at the same time, if you've done lots of personal development in the workplace and maybe you didn't have, qualifications from school, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to start right at the beginning. You can, start at the level that's right for you. And the reason that we can say that is that we will give you a sort of initial sort of diagnostic just to check what that starting point is, to make sure that whatever course you choose, we put you on the right level. And that just allows you to make the progress of which you are capable. So definitely you can do this. Start with your passion, think about your end goal, which is your career, and know that no matter what your starting point is, we're going to meet you there and get you to that end goal. So you've made the right choice. But the other thing is, like anything, you only get out what you put in. So I think the best way that I describe it is like a gym membership. So you'll only see the results if you turn up to classes. So many, sometimes with our students, they commit to the course, but unfortunately, work might get in the way, childcare gets in the way, and then they don't turn up and get out of it what they really want to. But like an employer, at college, our expectation is 100% attendance. Unless, of course, like an employer, you're unwell and that can't be helped. We accept that. So what I'm asking you to do just now is think about what might stop you turning up to class. What might stop you from getting to that 100%? So if already you know that you're working full time, is now the time to talk to your employer about reducing your hours, or perhaps doing more work at the weekends and more work in the evenings? But is that a question that you can have with your employer if you're working? If you're not working, perhaps you've got caring responsibilities. What will you do if your child is unwell at school and you aren't able to attend college? Have you got maybe a friend that could step in and help with that child caring? Does your partner understand this commitment that you're willing to make to your, personal development? Will they support you if those sort of life instance happens, that they can step in and make sure that you get to college and get to attend your class? So these are just some of the things to be thinking out. What's going to stop you from attending, and what can you do now to kind of negate that, to make sure that those support networks are in place for you? And the reason why we stress it so much is that we know that our students that attend more are likely to have a higher achievement. And we know that you want to come here and you want to give it your all. So making sure that you attend, that you commit, will make sure that you get the results of which you are capable. And just to reassure you, again, that you're in safe hands with our teachers and with our support teams. We're #1 for achievement across Greater Manchester, and we've also got a grade 2 from Ofsted. So they're like the quality assurance of education, and they're telling you that from that grade 2, you're going to have good teaching, good support, that's going to help you get the qualification of what you're capable. But like I said, you're only going to get those results if you turn up to classes and you work with us. So thinking about now what those barriers might be. Now, when you actually come onto campus, you've chosen your course, you're committed, you've spoken to your friends, your family. What's it actually going to be like when you get onto campus? What's it actually going to look like? Now, some of you may already have attended the curriculum sessions, so they've maybe been really specific about how your timetable might look. But for others, it's just a point to consider that there's lots of different approaches to learning that we take at the Manchester College. So for some, it will be lectures. Now, the best way to think about lectures is if you've ever watched those American movies, and you've probably seen them, they're all at university, and the students are sitting in the mass lecture halls. Well, it's not like that, but the principle of a lecture is the same. It's about where the tutor will give you lots of information, and your job is to take that information, take your notes, and then take that away, and then use that to inform your thinking. So lectures are sort of less opportunity for that interaction, but a way for that lecturer, for that tutor to share lots of information. And at the Manchester College, what's good about those is that they tend to be fairly small classes, so nothing like those American movies, which means that the tutors are there to kind of offer lots of support. And if you need more support, you've got your independent supported study sessions, and they're led by your personal tutors. So if you've been in those lectures, if you've been in those classroom settings, and you've not quite understood what's went on, the personal tutors can help unpack more of that. You'll also have sort of self-directed study. So self-directed study means that you have to kind of work on your own through your assignments. So this is one thing to think about with your timetable. Okay, when you have your timetable, you will have, for example, 8 hours of contact time with a tutor. What you need to think about for yourself is that actually you should be doubling that, because for every hour in front of the teacher, you want to be spending at least an hour of your own time working through what you've learned, really mastering that learning so that you fully understand it. So don't just think about your course as the hours of which you're timetabled, but it's also about what homework are you going to have to do, what time are you going to have to give up to make sure your assignments and your assessments are handed in if you've got an exam to prepare for. So do be really aware that as well as those lectures, as well as sort of study sessions, you're going to have to study on your own, and that's what we mean by self-directed study. Now, one of the things that COVID has been a catalyst for is lots more online learning. And what we tend to use is Teams, which we're using just now, and we also have Moodle, which is our online learning environment. And what that allows you to do, Moodle in particular, is to go through some of the learning at your own pace. So the whole course will be on there, and you can almost keep track of your learning week by week. So our tutors will use that to put on PowerPoints, to put on handouts, and it really allows you to keep track of the content of the course. And Teams, we're tending to use that just now for some of our online classes. So similar to this, the tutor will be presenting. There'll be opportunities to use the chat box for some questions for answers. There's also breakout rooms, but really what we will do is make sure there's lots of how-to guides, lots of support to get you feeling comfortable with Teams. And what's really useful is, if you think now about how the workplace has changed, the more that you're able to utilise these technologies and these learning platforms, the better able you will be to work in the workplace, because that's an expectation now, that lots of organisations, companies are making use of Teams for staff to do their work and to meet. So as a student, having the opportunity to get familiar with this technology will really set you up for that career for the future. Now, the other thing that we have, which I think is fantastic, is e-books. Now, when I was studying, we had to physically go into the library, and that took up a lot of time. You could be like an hour getting to the library, walking about, trying to find the right book, and then sort of heading home again to use it. Well, the great thing about technology is it's moved on. So you can actually do a search from our library for the book that you need, download it onto your device, and you have access to that book there and then. So you don't even need to get off your seat, you don't need to go on a bus or travel. You can get access to that ebook from your device, from your laptop, from your tablet, even from your phone, if that's how you want to use it. So ebooks really help cut down on some of that time that was wasted when you physically had to go to a library. Now, at the same time, there'll be some of you that think, actually, I love libraries, that's where I want to study, and that's absolutely fine. All of our campuses have library spaces. So if you do like, that physical copy of a book, that hardback and the paper, that's absolutely fine. We do still have libraries, and we have a great team of library support staff. So if you've not been in a library for a while, you're not quite sure where to get started, where do you even begin, we've got a great team, and we call our libraries learning resource centres. So you might refer to them as that, the LRCs, the learning resource centres, and that's because so much learning happens in our library spaces and so much support is available from them. Now, I think the next point is really important. It's about quiet study areas. Now, some of you may have home conditions, home life, children or parents or flatmates or, partners that, don't mean to be, but can be distracting. And with all great intention, you might set yourself some time, some space, but then you get distracted by cups of tea. So you actually find that it's better to come onto campus. That's absolutely fine. We have lots of quiet study areas in the library, but also throughout. That you can make use of. And that is one question that I would ask you again when you're thinking about preparing to study, to think about, where do you do your best study? Where do you do your best work? So, for example, I know that when I study, it has to be quiet. I can't listen to music. I'm really lucky. I have a space in my house that I can, and I've got it all sorted. I've got my pencil case. I've got my stationery. Where are you going to study? Where are you going to make time to do your homework? Have you got a space where you can keep your books, your resources, know that they're going to be in that same place if you leave them? Because actually getting yourself organised as to a study area, thinking about how you study, is really quite important, and particularly back to that point about your self-directed study. So when you're not in the classroom, where are you? What are you doing? How are you studying? One of the other things that you might want to think about is buddying up. Particularly when I was at uni, I found that I could easily let myself get distracted. But what was brilliant was making friends with people on the course. And in a way, we were each other's sort of peer support, we were each other's peer coach. And I think what you'll find when you join us at the college is you'll end up building friendships. That's inevitable. And you will end up, supporting one another. And lots of our students do that through WhatsApp groups. You'll no doubt do that yourself. But if you needed a bit more structured support, we do have peer coaches, and they tend to be someone that's maybe on the year, so say it's a 2-year course, they'll be in the second year, or say you're on level 2, that peer coach will be on level 3. And it's just an opportunity for them to share with you honestly, this is what it was like for me. This is how I get through it. This is how I approach this assignment. And sometimes we know that students, it's much easier to talk to one another than it is necessarily talking to a member of staff. So that's why we've come up with peer coaches. And where we have peer coaches, where it works really well is in our Access. For example, it's not the only place that it happens, but we also have specific peer coaches for Maths and English. So if you've not done Maths and English for a while, it can take a wee while to kind of get into the swing of things. You might not want to, talk to your tutor all the time about it. So we utilise peer coaches to help people brush up on their Maths and English, as in addition to the kind of support that would be given in class. So really what I want you to take away from this slide is to understand that there's lots of different ways in which you're going to learn when you come to the Manchester College. You're going to have your classes, you're going to have teams, you're going to have online classes, you're going to have to read books that you can access from the library or at home, and making sure that you know where you're going to study, and getting a sense of how you study as well. Do you like music? Do you not like music? Can you study for hours at a time, or is it better if you chunk it up? And remember again what I said, for every hour on your timetable, you're giving yourself another hour to catch up, to really help consolidate everything that you've learned in the class. Okay. So thinking about now what we've covered, so I've talked quite a bit at you, so it's been about 15 minutes. So hopefully just through that discussion, we've started to think about actually what are, this is all great, but already I'm starting to feel a little bit nervous. There's a couple of barriers that I'm thinking about. Is there anything that you want to share with me just now, just using the chat box, that you might be worried about? What might stop you from maybe attending? What might stop you from finding a place to study or getting to the library? What might some of these barriers be that you might face? And I'll just give you 2 minutes to populate that chat box for me. Okay, do we have anything so far in the chat box?
Hi, Annette. Yeah, nothing in the chat box as of yet, but I know we had an email recently, and one of the barriers that was being explained was childcare. I mean, have you got anything you'd like to say about that? So in terms of, it was a student that had to arrange childcare for their child. So what would you say to that?
Yeah, I would say please don't worry, first of all, and that we are able to offer support with childcare. Some of our campuses actually have nurseries on them, so if that student was choosing to study at our Openshaw campus, for example, we do have a nursery on site which the student can apply to, have their child placed there, which would, maybe make it really easy. But we're also conscious that students would prefer to use childcare which is closer to home. So for that reason, we offer sort of childcare sort of vouchers where we can make payments to childminders, to nurseries on behalf of that student. Now, to check if a student is entitled, so if they are entitled to childcare, so sometimes it depends on income, it depends on the child's age. So my advice would be to contact our careers and welfare team, who can give a bit more advice and can talk to the student about what option might work best for them. So the best thing to do, contact careers and welfare, but with the reassurance of knowing that we do support with childcare. So hopefully that won't be a barrier for the student that's emailed in.
Thanks very much, Annette. That's brilliant. Another one that came up recently was it was the cost of kit for certain subjects, where you'd have to purchase kit, whether it be hospitality and catering or other subjects like that. So what kind of support is there in place for that?
Well, again, if it's a sort of financial constraint, and we understand that some of the kit can be expensive, we do have bursaries available in support of that. So again, not to keep referring to my colleagues at Careers and Welfare, but they do a fantastic job of sort of helping students to sort of navigate what they are and aren't entitled to. But again, it's that reassurance that we've got help, so what I'm trying to say is that, with finance and buying kit, don't let that be a barrier. Never let that put you off, because what we will do is work with you to sort of find a solution. And what we can do is we can loan kit. For example, at the moment, because a lot of our students are having to, use online learning, they didn't have a laptop before they joined our course. We've been able to provide them with that technology. So I would say to any student on the call that's worried about purchasing that additional kit, please don't. We can make sure that we can help you with that with the different funding pots that are available.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Annette. I also recently heard from a student with special educational needs, and they were sort of asking about what kind of support is on offer and what we can do to make that sort of move back into college a sort of positive experience for them. So what kind of advice would you give there?
Well, again, with that student, what we could say is we can meet them in advance. So we have student mentors who offer regular campus tours. So as a first starting point, that learner might want to come on to campus that they're hoping to study at, and to view some of the sort of facilities that we have in place, to see some of the classrooms that are available. And then we can talk to them seriously about, their timetable. So they might feel that coming back full time is too much. They might feel that they want a more bespoke timetable to their needs. That can happen. And we have a sort of transitions team. They work mainly with sort of 16 to 18, but they can also give good advice to students with, from adults with a sort of special educational need to help them too. So there is lots of support. We've got a designated what's called adult learning support, additional learning support manager, who is dedicated specifically to adults. So again, she's a really useful starting point in terms of understanding what those kind of barriers might be. So for example, we do have students that are adults that come and they have autism, they have dyslexia, dyspraxia. A learning difficulty, as I understand, it can be a barrier, but what we take pride of in the Manchester College is that we're inclusive. So we'll meet with the learner, we'll understand what their issues are, and then together as a team we will work to support that learner into their chosen course.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Annette. We've not actually had any other barriers come through into the chat box as of yet, so if you'd like to continue.
Okay, thank you. So what we are conscious of, I've been at the Manchester College for a couple of years now, and the kind of common barriers, if you like, that we tend to come across are finance. So similar to the student that's, maybe expressed some concerns about purchasing additional kit. Yeah, I mean, it can be that, it can be purchasing kit, it could be paying for the course in the first place. So anything with finance, because it's really personal, everyone has different circumstances, we really do recommend a catch up with like our careers and welfare team. They're qualified careers advisors, so it's all really neutral. They're not going to push you onto a TMC course. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to find the right course for you, and to make sure that it's affordable for you. So, what I'm trying to say is, if you go to them as your first point of call, they'll direct you in the right way and in a way that's right for you, not just because we want you to come to the Manchester College. Of course we do, but we have to make sure that that's right for you and that financially that's the right decision for you as well. So the experts within our careers and welfare team are a fantastic place to start if you've got any concerns at all about finance or funding for your courses. Family, it didn't surprise me at all to that childcare came up. I think for adults, that's a big, some of them, most of us, as we get older, childcare becomes more of a factor. So just to reassure you again that we do have support for childcare. Some of our campuses, as I said, actually have nurseries and creches attached, and if that's not the case on the campus that you're choosing to study, we can help with child vouchers, paying childcare, childminders, nurseries in your local area, whatever works best for you. And again, it's the careers and welfare team that will meet with you just to again decide what's the best bit. And what also tends to come up when we have these sessions and talking to adults that are coming back after a time away, it's just, study skills, just taking sort of pen to paper again, taking notes, reading, writing essays, writing assignments, and that might all begin to feel quite overwhelming. So one of the things that we want to sort of reassure everyone about is that we do have study skills sessions. I talked before about the library and how they're more like learning resource centres. So the librarians are brilliant. They're a first point of call in terms of helping you with study skills sessions. Your personal tutors will also help with that. And we also have the student mentor role. I'll say a bit more about them later, but they too can meet with you on a kind of one-to-one basis and offer you support with your study skills. So again, just be really reassured. Don't let the fact that it's been a while since you studied put you off. That's like most of the adult students that come to us at the Manchester College. We're very expert at taking care of you and making sure that you get that support that you need, particularly in relation to your study skills, because it's so important and key to what you're doing. I think one of the things that a lot of our adult students tend not to ask themselves, and it's a tricky question to ask, but my question to you right now would be, you're thinking about coming onto a course, what are you giving up? Because your life can't stay the same. If you're going to invite 8 hours, 16 hours of study into your life, then what that's going to mean is that you're going to have to start to say no to something. And for a lot of people, it's the kind of social side of their life that they choose to sort of maybe compromise on. So you might have to say no to that social engagement, when you've got an assignment due on the Monday. You might have to pass up on a friend's birthday party because you've got an exam the next day. So these are some of the things to think about, and it's not necessarily a barrier. It's not necessarily a negative thing, but I do think, if I'm being honest, you do have to ask yourself that difficult question of, right, what am I willing to give up to really achieve this qualification? Because it can't stay the exact same as it is. You can't start something new and not expect your life to change in some way. And I think that's particularly true for our adult learners in a way that's maybe not so much, the case for our younger learners. So thinking about what you might have to say no to in order to make your study dreams a reality. And another sort of barrier that people think about is, holidays. And a holiday would be a barrier, unfortunately. The only way we can help you overcome it is to really, really encourage you to take these in term time. You know, so to miss 2 weeks when you're actually scheduled to be in class is a big chunk of time to miss. So just now you're thinking about studying for next year, maybe starting with us in January, which would be great. So just thinking about, right, if I'm booking a holiday, let's hope, COVID willing, we will all be in holiday next year. You know, making sure that you're planning them for half term, the summer break, so that that's not impacting you on your studies. So there's lots of things we can help you with. You know, we can help you with the finance, we can help you with the childcare, we can help you with the study skills, but there's some decisions that you have to make for yourself in terms of, you know, how you balance your social commitments and your holidays as you make this return to study. But like I said, you know, just on that note, yes, it is up to you. But we're here to help. And you know, I joined the Manchester College not long after. Well, actually, it's just a bit before we had our Ofsted inspection, and we had feedback from the inspection, which is basically, as I said, it's, you know, we're, you know, lots of people that know better than we do come to visit the college to make sure that, you know, we've got high quality education, we've got the right support in place, and that students, you know, are leaving with meaningful qualifications. And I think one of our students summed it up better than I ever could. And really, when the inspector asked her, you know, why do you like, you know, studying at the Manchester College? She said quite simply, it's the college that won't leave you behind. And I think that's exactly why I work at the Manchester College, why I work in the support team, because I know what a big decision it is to return to study, you know, to give up on those social commitments, to say no to those holidays, because you want to, you know, you want something better, you want that career. So my job is to make sure that you're not left behind. If you've committed to this course, it's my job and the job of my team to make sure that we help you every step of that journey, just as I said right at the start of this presentation. But there's one thing that I have to ask of you, and that is that if you do think that you're going to need this support, ask for it. You know, don't tell us about it, because we can't, sometimes it's too late. Sometimes students don't talk to us until it's like the point of crisis. And what we want to do is really encourage students to put their hands up as soon as they possibly can, to, you know, so that we can help you. And one of the ways that we do that is when you look at the application form, you'll probably find us asking questions that you might think, why are they asking that? And we're only asking it because we want to make sure that that support's in place before you get started. So for example, one of the questions earlier was about a student with, you know, learning difficulties. What could we do? Well, as soon as that's flagged up on the application, on the enrolment, then we will make sure someone from the learning support team gets in touch and that your needs are met. At the same time, it could be mental health. It could be that actually, you know, you're returning to study, but there's been depression, there's been anxiety, whatever that mental health issue might be. And we have the student support team who will help you with that, that will help you navigate those bad days and good days by giving you strategies that you can use on your own that will help you to get into a better sort of mental health space. But we can only do that if you tell us, okay? And that's the whole point of this slide, making sure that you tell us what your support needs are, so that we can really help meet them. And again, it's brilliant that you've joined this session, you know, again, thinking way ahead before you've started. So again, you might not want to use the chat box, absolutely not, I can understand that. But I can put my email in the chat box. And if you already think that you would want to talk to me about any of these issues, please do get in touch, and we can make sure that that support is in place before you even get started. And I think you'll find that that makes a real difference to students rather than wait until that point of crisis. And you know, and it just ensures that you're not left behind, that you hit that ground running as well. So we talked already a bit about you know, the support that you might need, you know, the barriers, and we talked about sort of that study skills might be a barrier to your learning, and I sort of talked a little bit about, you know, some of the sort of study skills that you know that we can help with. I just know how important it is for students to really develop these skills, so forgive me for slipping in another slide just to really sort of hammer this point home. But it really is, particularly those that are thinking about our level 3 access courses, these are really important because they focus on the kind of skills that you need if you want to progress on to university. And it's not just the access courses that allow you to do that. Obviously, we've got level 3 qualifications within BCCI, within construction. So these kind of study skills are just as relevant to you as well. And one of the focuses is like time management. So if you've not used to studying for a while, and like I said about that balance between turning up to class, that timetabled hour, and then plus your self-directed study, then you've got your assignments, then you've got your exams. Being able to manage your time is just such a key skill, and it's transferable in the sense that, even in working life, I'm sure some of you that are working already will know the value of being able to manage your time. And it's not just your studies that you're going to have to manage in terms of your time. It's again, how do you manage your studies around childcare, around work, around housework, around other maybe caring responsibilities. So those sort of time management study skills sessions will really help. I also talked earlier about lectures, there's points in the class when the teachers will be using PowerPoint, they'll be giving you lots of information, and they won't turn around to you and say, right, it's time that you start taking notes. They will assume that you know how to take notes, that you want to take notes because you're interested in what they have to say. So sometimes what students tend to do, particularly when they first start, is that they try and write down verbatim, word for word, everything that the tutor's saying. So that's not what note taking is about. It's about understanding what the key points are. And the tutors can do that through, it's amazing what they do in terms of the points that they emphasise through their voice, that will be emphasised on the sort of PowerPoint slides, the way that they use repetition. So we'll give some good guidance on, note taking in terms of when you're listening to someone, how to sort of pick out the most important points. But also note taking, you might find that you're doing a lot of reading on your course and you need to take notes to help you with your assignment, how to help with your essay. So it's about how to take notes from books, so that again you're just not rewriting the whole page. I was terribly guilty of that. That's what I just used to do all the time, was keep look at all my lovely notes, and really I had just copied pages of books. So until I really learned the skill of note taking, you can get into some really bad habits. So if you start early with those kind of study skills, it just saves you so much time. And making sure you organise your notes is really important too. So I talked earlier about that study skills space, your study space, where you're going to study, where you're going to store your notes, how you're going to organise them. Have you got some Polly Pockets? Have you got some folders? All of that's really key. And the reason why you need good time management, note-taking skills, is because it's most likely that you're going to have to feed that into an essay or a report. Now, we understand it's maybe been years since you've done that, so we will have the workshops multiple times across the year to really help you with essay writing and report writing, because it is different from maybe how you would, we write very casually these days, don't we? Maybe like an email to a friend, or we're texting, and it's how do we elevate our language, how do we make sure that we're structuring things correctly. So all those essay and report writing study skills workshops will help you with that. And research skills as well are key. The higher the level, the qualification, the more independent study you'll have to do, and that a lot of that will be independent research. And we're all researchers in a way, aren't we? We're all good at hitting up Google, and that's us. We found the answer. So those kind of sessions will talk a bit more about actually old-fashioned research skills, looking at books, looking at journals, how do you know like an internet source is it's not fake news and it can be trusted. So really sort of honing in on our research skills is really, really useful. And when we do all that reading, when we do all that research, we tend to come up with ideas, and a lot of the time they're the ideas of other people. You find that you agree with them or you disagree with them. And so what we need to do is, if we're including other people's ideas into our essays, We need to make sure that we reference those ideas, so that we know that, someone else has thought about it. It's absolutely fine that you agree with it or disagree with it, but we just need to know where that original idea came from. And that's all to do with referencing and plagiarism. So one of the worst things you can ever do, if you do sort of go into things like university and for your coursework, is like, plagiarism. The really crude way of saying it is stealing other people's ideas. But it's actually, as long as you reference them, that's absolutely fine. So we'll teach you that skill that will stop you falling into the dangers of plagiarism. And then the sort of, so a lot of that kind of, is coursework, essay writing, reports. That tends to be on courses that happen all, you're maybe assessed all through the year. But we're also conscious that some of you will have exams. And to help with your exam technique, we've got revision sessions. So how, rather than cramming a whole year's worth of study, how do you split that up in a way that you can remember, in a way that has meaning and value? So those sort of revision techniques are really helpful. So some of you, for example, may be returning and you want to do your GCSE Maths and English. So we'll do lots of support around that just before the main exam timetable. So study skills are really important, but hopefully again what you're taking away from this slide is the support that we've got on hand to help you with all of that. Now, I talked a bit before about the student mentor, and I think that's because this is the role that I'm probably most responsible for within the college. And the student mentor is really here to offer that sort of support for your academic and your personal issues. So if you found that you were falling behind or you weren't quite sure how to get started, how to get organised, then the student mentor is a really good place to start. And the approach that our student mentors take is very much a kind of coaching model. So we'll sit down with you, we'll think about actually what's that big goal, so let's not even think about the assignment. What's the big goal? Why are we doing this? What's our motivation? And we remind you to kind of hold on to that, and then we kind of work back and think about what are the steps that we need to take. And we kind of break that down a bit further. So we'll work with you to sort of set some SMART targets. So we start off with a big goal, then we chunk it into sort of SMART targets, we link that to your course, and we make sure that you start to make those assignment deadlines, because sometimes you just need that gentle push, that gentle piece of encouragement, and that's what that role is. And what we also appreciate is that when we're adults, life does get in the way. So we've had students that sort of have faced issues with like relationships breaking down. They've been faced with eviction, they've lost their jobs, all really difficult things to navigate. And what we don't want to happen is when these life things happen, we don't want you to leave your course. So what the mentor will do is get in touch with lots of external agencies on your behalf to help you get back on track so that your studies can get back on track. So that's kind of what we mean by that sort of pastoral support. So we help with the academic, we help the pastoral, any personal issues, and we can also advocate with those other agencies on your behalf if you're a bit nervous, you don't know where to start. That's what that student mentor role can do. And the other thing as well is if you find that you're maybe having, you went through a tricky time with maybe one of your tutors, and you're not quite, you feel that you've asked 10 times for feedback, or you've asked them to go over the assignment and they're just kind of not willing to go over it again. It's highly unlikely that will happen. But sometimes what we can do is we can help be that bridge, if you like, between your tutor and yourself. If you didn't want to sort of raise something that made you feel uncomfortable, we could do that for you. So that's what we mean there by sort of liaising with staff, just to make sure that everyone knows what they need to be doing and when they need to be doing it, why. But the student mentors are a great piece, great place to start if you're looking for that additional support. Okay, so we're almost nearly there, but I think one of the things that again I really want to emphasise is well-being. And this was important before COVID, but for me it's all the more important now. We really want to make sure that we look after one another. We've just finished our Be Kind campaign, where we're encouraging students to look after each other, our Protect Ecologies. Protect Your College campaign. We're really encouraging students to sign up to keeping our safer studies under COVID. But it's more than just COVID. That's obviously been a catalyst that's important. But your well-being really, really is important to me. I want you to come onto campus. I want you to feel safe. I want to make sure that you're not being bullied, you're not in any way harassed, that you're not in any way subject to hate crime. I mean, if any of these things were happening on site, that would upset me greatly, because we create a culture where it's really safe for all students to learn and to do their best. But if these things were ever to arise, we do have what's called the Student Experience Team, so my team again. It's a slightly different role from the Student Mentor role. They're the Student Experience Safeguarding Practitioners, and their role really is campus safety and to keeping you safe. So they would be able to help specifically with these issues. And when you become a student, you'll have access to the Student Hub. There'll be a sort of follow-up session to kind of help you navigate your way through that. But there's a tile on there and it's called Report and Support. And what that is an opportunity to get in touch and just tell us, report anything that you're worried about, and we will ensure that support's in place. So the Report and Support, there's an email address as well as that tool in the Student Hub, and that's a way of making sure that your well-being is looked after and protected when you're studying with us at the Manchester College. And finally, the other most important, I think, aspect of support really is the Student Union. The Student Union do an absolute great job in advocating for all students at the Manchester College. And it's all about you, so there's welfare officers, there's clubs and societies that you can join, and it just really does add value to your whole experience of being a student at the Manchester College. So if you're interested in making the Manchester College an even better place to study, the Student Union is a great place to kind of share your ideas. So one of the things that we did a couple of years ago with the Student Union president was he was really passionate, as are lots of our students, about the environment, and he came up with a sort of single plastics campaign with the Student Union, and as a result of that work, you'll find limited plastic on our campuses. So we're working towards being more environmentally friendly, and that was because of the Student Union voice. That was because of voices like yours that wanted to make an improvement to how the college worked. So when you're at when you come and you join and you study with us, if you've got any ideas about how we can make it better, then the Student Union is a great way for you to sort of help us make it a greater place to study. Sorry, stammering away here. And you can also do that through being like a student rep, a class rep, and really as a result of you feeding back, we can feed forward those great ideas. And one of the slogans that we have is that you make it happen, because it's your good ideas that do make the change. So I'm going to kind of leave it there. I'm going to just open it up for any more questions if we have them. Do we have any more questions?
We do, thanks Annette, that was brilliant. Yes, we have a whole host of questions here for you. So first one here is, when will I get my timetable as I need to arrange childcare?
Okay, unfortunately I wish I did have the answer to that for you. Unfortunately I don't. Really to get that answer, what you need to do is sort of contact your curriculum team, and they should be able to help you give you an indication of what your timetable might look like. But one of the things is just to sort of manage expectations, is that sometimes it can take a while for timetables to sort of stabilise, but you should get a good sense of what days you're in, how many hours you're in, which will allow you to sort of plan that childcare. And like I said before, we've got lots of flexibility in the providers that we work with. So it means that they can accommodate sort of childcare requests sort of fairly last minute if we had to. But your first point of call would be with the curriculum teams, who should be able to share that with you.
Brilliant, thanks for that, Annette. Another one here. I'm not 100% sure what course I want to do. Can I change my mind once I get started?
Yes, I mean, absolutely you can change your mind. However, if already you're in doubt, my advice to you would be to talk to our careers and welfare team. As I sort of said before, they're all qualified information, advice and guidance professionals. So they are completely neutral. So although they are employed by the Manchester College, you know, we've signed up to the matrix, which ensures that that's impartial advice that you're going to get. By making an appointment with the careers and welfare team, they will help you to better understand, you know, what is it that you want to do longer term, and you know what course is the best fit for that. If it's sort of between maybe two courses that are quite similar, you know, so maybe it's like you're interested in, I'm trying to think now on the top of my head, maybe you're interested in hairdressing, but you're also interested in beauty, and you're not quite sure how to decide. As well as the careers and welfare team, what you might want to do is again contact the department and ask to speak to some of the tutors. Our tutors are really helpful, approachable. Talk to them, ask them to talk a bit more about their courses. And there's events like this, like the TMC Live, the open events. Each curriculum area will be talking a bit more about what their courses have to offer, their links to industry. And I think just by, you know, attending more of these kind of events will help you to kind of, you know, explore that a bit more for yourself. So don't worry too much. If you do get started on a course and you change your mind, that's no problem. We can help you transfer. But really, my advice would be try as much as possible to get the right course at the right level, at the right campus, and of course with the right college, which, you know, we hope is the Manchester College.
Definitely. Okay. How much of my own time do I need to spend on my coursework?
Yeah, I mean, I think the ratio that I talked about before still holds true for most of our, you know, for all of our courses. I would say, you know, for 1 hour that you're in class, you know, be prepared to do 1 hour at home. And I think it's only through that you really engage with your subjects. And I think that's why I was talking before about passion, you know, doing something that you're really, really interested in, because then it doesn't feel like work, you know, you don't really grudge giving up your own time because you're actually reading about things you're interested in, you're revisiting your notes from a lecture that you were really interested in. So I think it's just really, you know, I'm not wanting to, you know, pretend in any way. I would say that you've got to at least think about like another hour of your study, of your own time, to really give it your all. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of students who don't, but I just think from my experience, when I talk to those students who, you know, leave with the distinctions and the really high grades, that's the difference. It's that time that they put in on their own, that self-directed study that can make the difference. So I think that's a really useful starting point.
Absolutely. Will I be interviewed?
You tend not to be for most of our courses. It's an application process online. There may be times when there's a sort of follow-up just to sort of check in, and I think it's just like the sort of first question, you know, just making sure that you really understand the course, that it's the right fit for you. So you tend not to have an interview, but what we will tend to have is a sort of follow-up telephone conversation with you, just to make sure that, you know, everything, you know, that it's the right course, it's at the right level before you get started. So if you do hear from our teaching staff, it's not as a sort of judgment, you know, that we don't want you in any way. It's just about making sure that we put you on the right course and on the right level. So not so much an interview, but you might have that sort of follow-up, you know, chat with our teachers.
Brilliant, thanks Annette. And the last question we've got here is, can I visit the college before I apply?
Yes, what we've agreed with our student mentors is that they will be able to offer sort of campus tours that are sort of COVID safe. So if you wanted to come onto campus to have a visit, then that can be arranged through the sort of student mentors and student experience team, because we understand, you know, it's all very well kind of, you know,